My name is Daniel, I'm 34, and I've always been the reliable sibling. Not the one my folks doted on, not the superstar. I was the one who just handled stuff, fixed problems, and quietly took care of bills nobody wanted to think about. My younger brother, Matt, is totally different. He's got all the charm, super spontaneous. He's got that reckless thing that people just seem to love. He could total a car and someone would practically hand him a new one, whereas I'd just get told to be more supportive. And honestly, I mostly just went along with it. I stayed out of the spotlight, helped when I could, and just swallowed the unfairness like it was nothing. But nothing could have prepared me for the night of his engagement party. It was a warm Friday. I got to the restaurant a little early with their gift. Nothing crazy fancy, but something I thought they'd like. A personalized decanter set with their names and the date they got engaged. I also organized a little thing for the end of the night. Champagne on me. It was a small thing, and I knew it probably wouldn't even get mentioned, but I figured it might get a nod of approval from my mom, who's like the family's social director. I wore my best suit, put on a happy face during the awkward family chat, and even volunteered to make a toast. I kept it short and sweet to Matt and Lee. I said something like, "May your future be as lively as your group chats." Everyone chuckled. Even Lee, his fiancée, gave me a small smile. But then between the main course and dessert, the atmosphere in the room just changed. Lee, Matt's soon-to-be wife, had always been kind of cold. She wasn't outwardly mean, just sort of indifferent. She was all polite smiles, but in a way that just made me feel tiny. Total old money, and she rubbed it in your face without even trying. Like if I mentioned my car, she'd be all, "Oh, I thought that model was discontinued." But that night, with everyone fawning over her and the booze flowing, her mask came off. She leaned in, that tight-lipped smile plastered on, and said, "Matt told me your mom practically begged him to invite you, said she didn't want the photos to look too, messed up. Family photos." She giggled like it was some cute story. My fork stopped dead in the air. I was like, "Wait, what?" "Oh, don't worry about it," she tossed off, waving a hand. "She just didn't want any trouble, you know how she is." I looked at Matt, hoping for something, a head shake, anything. He mumbled, "That's not what I said," but just kept staring at his food, messing with his steak. Then he let out this little chuckle, not loud, but enough to make my gut clench. My dad just smirked and muttered, "Well, you know how dramatic you can be." I don't even know what hurt more, Lee's little jab, my dad brushing it off, or Matt's silence. It all hit me at once, this weird, quiet wave of something awful. I wasn't mad, not yet, just frozen. I didn't cause a scene, didn't yell. I just neatly folded my napkin, stood up slow, and said, "I think I've had enough." Someone called my name, I don't even remember who. I walked out into the night like it was any other night, but my heart was hammering. I just sat there in the car for ages, hands gripping the steering wheel, just blank. My phone vibrated. It was a text from my mom. "You could have stayed longer for your brother. Don't ruin this." Ruin what exactly? A night where I was like totally invisible, just a blip in their perfect little world. I should have been used to it by then. For years, I'd just let it slide. I went to everything, paid for stuff nobody even acknowledged. I co-signed the loan for Matt's first place when he was 24 and had like zero credit. I helped Dad out of a tax mess he pretends never even happened. Even covered Mom's dental work last spring when her insurance accidentally expired. None of it mattered. None of it was ever even noticed. But that night, that stupid comment, it was different. Because what they didn't know, what nobody at that table knew, was that I was getting ready to transfer a six-figure sum to Matt. It wasn't a gift per se, more like a deal. I'd secretly bought a little investment property the year before. The plan was to sell it this quarter and give him the cash to help with the down payment on his dream house. He didn't have a clue. Nobody did. I was going to tell him at dinner. But the next morning, I called it off, pulled the plug, and moved the money somewhere else. And while I was at it, I went through every account, every bill, every little favor I'd been handing out like candy. The gym membership my dad accidentally hooked up to my card. My monthly payments to Mom, labeled random stuff, were gone. Plus, their whole Spotify family plan, the one with the four of them, kaput. Everything was gone. I didn't text, and I ignored all their calls. I just started fading away bit by bit from their world. They still have no clue what else I took with me when I walked out of that dinner. Not yet, anyway. Because the thing is, I also controlled something else. Something they depended on, and the instant I left that table, I decided I was finished being the quiet crutch they leaned on while they trashed the ground they stood on. Let's just say the aftermath is coming, and it's going to be a mess. It was almost unsettling how quiet it got after that dinner. No texts, no phone calls, not even those annoying group chats filled with birthday reminders, random photos, or family updates that always left me out. At first, I figured they defigured it out. Maybe my silent departure had made them think. But then I remembered who I was dealing with. 3 days later, I got the first message. It was from Matt. "Hey man, just checking in on that thing you brought up a few months back. The house fund. We're looking at houses this weekend. Let me know what you need from me." I stared at the screen for a long time at the casual expectation in his message. No thanks for showing up. No mention of anything that went down at dinner. He just picked up where he left off, assuming I'd still be the quiet, dependable ATM. I just didn't answer. Then a day later, an email popped up from my dad. Subject, utility bill, something like, "Daniel, the electricity bill's crazy high this month. Check it out. Maybe the auto pay messed up." I almost choked on my coffee, laughing. There was no messing up. I'd personally shut down every single auto pay I had. I didn't even bother replying. I figured it would take them a good week or two to really see how much I'd been keeping afloat. Then the phone calls started. Mom first, twice that morning. Then Dad. Then Matt again. I let them all go to voicemail. I wasn't ready, not even close, because while they were just starting to feel the pinch of me not being around, I had something else brewing. Let me tell you about it. I'm in finance. Nothing fancy, mostly real estate and advising smaller investors. But I get money. I really get money. I know how to move things around quietly, you know? About 6 years ago, Matt came to me with this amazing business idea, some wellness app with his buddy who knew nothing about tech and was already 30 grand in debt. Matt had zero plan, no presentation, nothing. Just those big, hopeful eyes and even bigger dreams. I said no, flat out. But that night my mom called crying. She was saying, "He just wants to prove himself, Daniel, be someone important. Can't you help him?" So I did. I gave him $80,000, telling him it was a loan, all official, with deadlines and a way out. He signed, grinning, probably not having a clue what he was reading. The app tanked in 18 months. Everyone thought I was done for. They were so sure I'd given up. But they didn't know that Matt had signed over a piece of the online stuff, you know, the branding and digital property, as part of paying me back. Even though the whole thing had crashed and burned, those things were worth something. Domain names, the way the affiliates were set up, the email lists. I'd quietly sold it all off last year to someone and made close to $140,000. Didn't say a word to anyone. And that money. It was stashed away where they couldn't get their hands on it. A trust. They thought it was for the family's investments. My mom even asked me last month if that inheritance safety net was still taken care of. I just smiled and said, "Yep, everything's good." She didn't know I had changed the beneficiaries recently. None of them were listed anymore. Then something else came back to me, something a little trickier. Matt and Lee used an account connected to my financial firm to pay for their engagement party. I'd offered to help them out, manage the money so they could get all the rewards and points, and keep track of what they were spending. I was just trying to be nice. But back then, that account was under scrutiny, because Lee, bless her heart, had spent big, thinking I wouldn't look closely. Dresses, spa trips, a first-class flight, she said, was for looking at venues. She broke all the spending rules and put a bunch of stuff down as business costs. I had a few quiet chats with the audit folks at my company, and let's just say their account is now on their radar. Their joint credit line, frozen, under investigation, and the texts, they were getting worse. "Daniel, this isn't a joke, we have to talk. Did you cancel Mom's insurance? The automatic payments? She got a cancellation notice. You're acting like a child, you always make this about you." They just didn't get it. This wasn't about one stupid dinner. This wasn't about Lee's snarky remark or my dad's condescending chuckle. This was about years and years of me showing up, giving them everything I had and even more. Giving up weekends, vacations, my own sanity, just so they could make fun of me at the very table I helped prepare. It wasn't even just the money. It was the emotional exhaustion. Sitting through those family meetings where I had to play referee, fixing Matt's screw-ups, always offering to help Mom out when Dad's taxes were a nightmare. I was the one secretly sending my sister money through Venmo when she was too embarrassed to ask Dad for rent money. They figured if I didn't say anything, I was okay with it. They thought quiet meant I was a pushover, that being reliable meant they could take advantage of me. So I stopped being all those things. And that's when things really blew up. The family group chat exploded. Mom's frantic texts, Dad's guilt-trippy voice notes, Matt's long, rambling messages about how I was betraying the family. Even Lee popped in with something like, "It's so sad when bitterness ruins your ability to be happy for other people." I almost answered. I really did. But instead, I just sent one text. Only one. You can't trash the groundwork and then bawl when it all falls apart. After that, I just muted the whole discussion. Later that day, I got a message from my aunt. Someone I hardly ever talked to. It said, "No matter what, I want you to know I see you and I'm proud of you." That almost wrecked me, but I wasn't finished, not even close, because there was still one more thing I grabbed when I walked out of that dinner, and they hadn't figured it out yet. Once they finally did, things would be different. They didn't see it at first, of course they didn't. That would have meant paying attention, something my family had never been good at. But little by little, the problems started to pop up. And soon they'd find out that the thing I took wasn't the money. It wasn't the trust fund. It wasn't the property papers or the credit line. It was the family business, or at least the part of it they didn't know I owned. Back when my grandpa died, he left a small group of storage places. Nothing fancy, but it made good, consistent money, had reliable renters and low expenses. My dad took over, and as far as the family knew, he was in charge. But he wasn't a businessman, he was just a face. And when he got in trouble a few years back, he came to me, quietly, desperately. He'd almost lost one of the properties after forgetting to pay the taxes for 2 straight years. The county was about to take it. He pleaded with me, practically on his knees, that it was a slip-up, that he'd make things right. I said okay, I'd bail him out of the mess, but only if he agreed to something. He gave me a majority share in that one location, didn't even hesitate. He was so freaked out he probably would have signed over everything he owned. And just like that, not really thinking it through, he gave me control of the only part of the company that actually made money. I cleaned things up, got better software, stopped the bleeding, and fixed the leases. I took that branch and really turned it around. Then I bought a second one. This time it was all above board through a shell company. Nobody knew it was me, not even him. That's exactly how I wanted it. Now 3 of the 5 locations are run by me, under my name, all legal and everything. They wouldn't bother to look because they always thought they were the smartest ones, that they deserved everything, that they were the most important, and that they were the only ones who mattered, and that's why they hadn't figured it out yet. I kept sending the quarterly reports to my dad's old email, but I fudged them to make it seem like everything was fine. He never bothered to check the real numbers anyway. He just looked at the total amount of money coming in and figured it was all his. But this quarter, I didn't send the fake reports. This quarter, I let reality sink in. It started with a phone call to the property manager I'd hired, someone who was professional, discreet, and trustworthy because I pay well and treat people right. I told her to change the signs on the buildings. I just swapped out our old family crest on the building with the new logo I'd been quietly designing. She sent me a photo when it was up. Black and white letters, crisp, modern, nothing fancy. Daniel and Company Storage Solutions. Secure your future with people who show up. Then Matt called, but not me. He called the property manager. He was freaking out. Why'd the sign change? Where's the old logo? My dad owns this place. Who okayed this? She was cool as a cucumber, told him professionally that any questions needed to go through the legal owner. Then she gave him my name. I can picture his expression perfectly. That's when all hell broke loose. My phone blew up for the next 6 hours. First, my dad, screaming about what I'd done, calling it fraud even though he signed all the paperwork himself, ranting about lawyers he couldn't pay for. I let it go to voicemail. Then my mom, sobbing, saying I was ripping the family apart, that I was being awful, vengeful, and ungrateful. That message hung with me. Ungrateful. It just kept ringing in my ears, like all those years of giving without getting anything in return didn't even give me the right to leave. Then Matt, 8 missed calls in a row, finally a voicemail. I can't believe you did this. I don't even care about the money, man. This was about family, about our legacy. You stole it. You're just bitter. That's all you've ever been. Jealous and bitter. Jealous, I almost laughed. It wasn't because I was off base. Nope, he was dead wrong. I wasn't jealous at all. I was just plain worn out, sick of showing up and always being treated like I didn't belong. Fed up with the fake smiles that turned into snide remarks behind my back. Tired of them only putting up with me because I could be helpful, so I took back what was rightfully mine. Not out of spite, but because I deserved more than just being a side note in my own family story. The next day, I got an email from Daniel Cold, predictable Daniel. It read, "Whatever your problems are, they shouldn't mess with Matt's future. Be the bigger person. You've made your point. Fix it before the wedding blows up." I just looked at it for a minute, my heart still, my hands steady. Fix it. Nope, Lee. This wasn't something I was going to fix. This was the point where everything they broke finally started to fall apart right in front of them. And I hadn't even delivered the final blow yet because there was still one more thing they were about to lose. This one would hit them the hardest. I waited a week, not because I wasn't sure what to do next, but because I wanted them to stew in the silence. I wanted them to wallow in the mess their own arrogance had made. I wanted the dust to settle just enough so that when the final move came, they'd have nowhere to hide. And when it did arrive, it wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be ugly. It would be quiet, exact, forever, the final piece of the puzzle, the family trust. My grandpa was a planner. He was a military guy who became a small-town business owner. My grandpa was all about order, you know. Everything had its place. He believed in leaving something behind, a real legacy. When he died, he left a decent trust fund, nothing huge, just some land, a few investments, and a piece of that storage business we've always had in the family. But it was enough. Enough for college, weddings, down payments, enough for Matt to always have a brand new car and Mom to live like she won the lottery. What most of them didn't know is that I was handling all his paperwork for the last few years of his life. It wasn't because I was greedy or anything, I just felt it was my duty. I went to see him twice a week at the nursing home, read to him, helped sort his pills, filled out forms, kept his lawyer in the loop about everything. I was the only one who really checked in on him. Then about 6 months before he passed, he looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "They'll be all over it like flies the second I'm gone. Just make sure the one person who actually helped doesn't get screwed." I didn't get it at the time, but now it's so obvious. He made me the successor trustee, secretly. No big deal, nobody even noticed, and I didn't say anything. Everyone just figured Dad was in charge, and that was perfectly fine. I never touched a dime, never interfered. Not even when Matt wanted a handout for some crazy cryptocurrency thing. Even when Mom suggested using the college fund to cover her fancy facelifts in Arizona, I played it cool. I let them think Dad controlled the money. But the second I canceled all his access that week, shut down the old account and moved everything to a new one, they knew something was up. Rick, Dad's lawyer since I was a teenager, nice guy, hates drama, was the first to call. "Daniel," he said, all stiff and formal. I kept my voice even. "My dad thinks you blocked him from the trust fund." "Because I have," I said. "You're the trustee now." I let a beat of silence hang there before saying, "I always have been." There was a pause. He finally said, "You know this will cause a lot of trouble, right?" "That's the plan," I replied. He sighed. The explosion happened the next day. Dad burst into my office, ignoring the receptionist, already yelling. "You think you can just rip off your own family, your brother, your mother?" I didn't even move. "No," I said calmly. "I think I'm finally done handing over money to people who never even said thanks." He accused me. "You're bitter." "No," I corrected him. "I'm just plain tired, big difference, and I'd rather be the bad guy in their story than the pushover in mine." He slammed his fists on my desk. "You're going to destroy everything. You don't get to change our family." "I'm not changing anything," I replied, now standing, my voice soft but firm. "I'm just removing myself from the role where I'm supposed to take care of you." He just looked at me, and that's when I saw it, not rage but fear. It wasn't about losing the money, it was that he finally realized he never truly knew me. After he left, I sat back down, staring at the papers on my desk. The new trust was solid, and the undeveloped land was already being offered to someone. I took care of myself, the money from the businesses I ran nicely tucked away into a fund for someone they'd never expect. My niece, Matt's daughter, she was 6, sweetest kid. One Thanksgiving, she sat beside me and asked if I liked being the helper in the family. I chuckled, not sure how to respond. Later that night, she put a drawing in my coat pocket, a drawing of me with a superhero cape, standing next to a treasure chest that said Mr. Daniel's Secret Gold. I didn't cry then, but I sure did later when I found it again. I'd seen enough to know that kid didn't stand a chance in that house, where you only got approval if you did what you were told, and love came with strings attached. So I made her the beneficiary. Full access when she hits 25. One condition, her family doesn't get anything unless she gives it to them. The rest goes to charity. Scholarships for kids whose parents didn't go to college. There's money out there, you know, for kids who grew up feeling like they didn't fit in. Scholarships for the quiet ones, the ones everyone ignores, the ones who keep showing up even when nobody notices. Then the next week my mom called the very last time she ever did. Her voice was so quiet it scared me. "Danny," she whispered, "what are you doing?" I just stayed silent. "You're hurting people who love you," she said. I took a deep breath. "No, Mom," I told her, "I'm hurting people who used me, big difference." She started to cry. "You used to be so kind," she choked out. "I still am," I said, "just not to people who think kindness is weakness." And I hung up. That was it. Haven't heard from any of them since. I know what they're saying, that I cracked, that I'm selfish and heartless, that I abandoned my own family. Let them, because I know the real story. I know about those long nights, the sacrifices nobody saw, the times I paid their bills and they thanked each other. The way they laughed at me, then came crawling to me when things went wrong. Years of me being their rock while they pretended I wasn't even there. Nope, they can figure it out on their own. My storage business is doing great. Everything's under control, the trust is solid, the money's safe, my niece's future is secure, and for the first time ever my phone is quiet, seriously quiet, a beautiful silence. People ask if I miss them. No, not really. I miss the people I thought they were, the people I hoped they'd become. But that guy, the one who waited around for them, he's gone. There's a new me now. Now he sleeps soundly, takes breaths that come easy, and smiles for real, not just for show, because he's really and truly free. They'll never figure out what I walked away with that night after dinner. It wasn't just the cash, you know. I took myself, my whole self, with me.